In today's Rebel's Edge, J-Pow in Amsterdam saying the quiet part out loud. The kiddies come roaring back to Wall Street. And at the end of the show, we're going to tell you about a big announcement for another live show coming to you from Market Rebellion. Stay tuned.
Mark, we are off and running. We've had a lot of difficulties, and that's something we'll definitely be talking about. But I got Marc LoPresti with me. Jon is over in Ireland walking around with donkeys, which is not unusual for him. And thank God he's just walking with them. Anyway, there's a lot going on over there. I don't want to say anything about it, but it could be pretty interesting. Anyway, Mark, when it comes to the macro minute, I'm going to kick this whole thing off right now. For me, it's about connectivity. And we've had a lot of issues going around the country, and a lot of people are talking about it. I think it's actually affecting the markets to some degree because a lot of the volume has dropped. When you look at the market volume that we are seeing right now for May, and it's been very interesting. We've had a great start to May. I mean, that whole conversation about saying, hey, sell in May and go away, that's ridiculous. That absolutely is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and you hear it every year come May. But the volumes have definitely dropped. There's still, the markets are moving, they're flowing, and we've got all the craziness, but volumes have definitely been affected, I think, by this connectivity. So that's my macro minute.
Yeah, there certainly seems like something going on with the electronic gremlins these days, Pete, that's for sure. And look, muted volume does impact price action and does impact volatility. So definitely something to look at. Look, my macro minute is, of course, my favorite subject. Inflation, interest rates, monetary policy. J-Pow, hold on a second, a little more coffee here. And yes, J-Pow, as I teased in the cold open, is in Amsterdam at the Nerds Gone Wild. No, that's actually not the name of it. It is the Foreign Bankers Conference, where he said, look, inflation is disappointingly taking its time, taking longer, and we're going to hold monetary policy. The market does not seem to be reacting much to that. I think, Pete, that traders are just glad that he didn't say something worse, like we may need to revisit what the Fed's plan is for the rest of the year, especially on the back of the PPI print we got this morning. That's the most important piece of economic news we're going to get this week, coming in 2 bips hotter. Street was looking for spot 3. We came in at a full half a point to the upside on the producer price index. Inflation ain't going anywhere, folks. I don't care what they tell you.
And I'll tell you this, Mark, I mean, one last thing on that topic would be for me is, you know, we've kind of thought that this was the case. I mean, we've talked about inflation being sticky. We've talked also about, hey, the best chance of us cutting rates is probably not going to occur till at least September. So I think that the markets are kind of digesting it because of the fact that they've already pushed out in time what the time frame really looks like. So I think that's part of it as well. Real quick with fantastic futures, I'm going to give you sugar. Now, sugar, we talk about it all the time. Last year, Jon and I definitely talked about this. Copper, we've talked about a lot of the different areas in the commodity space. But when it comes to sugar, we all know there's a lot of different uses for it. Brazil, by the way, is talking about what their production really is looking like. Well, it's looking very, very good. In the past, we've had all of these different issues with weather and this and that and the other. Right now, Brazil's saying, not a problem for us. And if you take a look, it is now sitting at $18, $18.31 to be exact is where sugar is. Shoot, February, it was $24.50. That's a pretty significant drop. So I would say keep an eye on this one, and maybe we'll see some of the others start to follow along as well.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at cocoa lately, Pete. Is that sold off a little bit?
That finally did take a huge sell-off. It was screaming to the upside, and now it's pulled back significantly. So yes, cocoa has come back from those highs, but it's still, if you go back in time, it's still at a very lofty level for sure.
Well, Starbucks customers rejoice. Sugar and coffee both coming down off the year's highs.
That's right. All right, let's just jump in because this is so exciting for me. I mean, when we look at what's going on in the markets, what is going on in the markets, Mark? Well, the usual, this, that, and the other. But the unusual comes when you look at GameStop, you look at AMC, you start to look at all these meme stocks that are out there. Everybody talking about it. Roaring Kitty, you already teased that. Roaring Kitty is back, baby. This is 2021. We've absolutely done a full rewind, and this is happening again. And it's absolutely amazing to watch how this is moving. We've had incredible UOA, unusual option activity in some of these names already. Mark, here's a good example. Yesterday, GameStop averages 10 million shares a day. They traded 176 million shares yesterday. AMC averages 25 million a day. They traded 478 million shares yesterday. So even with what I was talking about, the connectivity issues, we are seeing folks just absolutely slam into stocks in that world, in that meme world. And if you've got a high short interest, you also belong in that world. And that's what we're seeing as well. Names like BlackBerry and others out there. There's a lot going in right now, and the volumes there are absolutely extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, Pete, I'm scratching my head on this one, okay? That is one of those like Columbo, I got one more question, coincidences that the day that AMC launches a massive $250 million stock sale, right, happens to be the same day that the Roaring Kitty and the meme stocks come back into favor, and that stock gets fucking pumped on the back of that. It looks a little suspicious today. That's suspicious to me. And I got to tell you something. I tell our Market Rebellion people and anybody that'll listen to me, stay the hell away from these things. Because if you're short them, when this happens, you get your face ripped off, and it just ain't worth it. It's not the risk reward that we like to talk about at Market Rebellion.
Right. No, you're exactly right. Although I would say this, in the options world where we're seeing a flood of options trading in there, as long as you're long, you know how much you can lose. Yep. And that's what I think a lot of people are focusing on as well. Not just the stocks, but we're also seeing incredible option activity in there where if you have the knowledge, you can actually sort of wade in there just a little bit. Anyway, on to On Holdings. Now, this one's interesting, Mark. All they've done is absolutely crush it. It's been an incredible company for a while. It's got heavy volume today. They came out with their earnings. That pushed them all the way up to 52-week highs. When you look at what's going on, they not only beat on the top, they beat on the bottom. Their earnings doubled. They went to 33 cents from last year, and actually they were compared to looking at a 14 cent. That was what they were expecting. So they crushed it there. You look at their revenue, their net sales up 21% year over year. The numbers are absolutely extraordinary for this company. They're crushing it in every way, and it looks like they're going to continue to do so as we get deeper into the year.
Yeah, this is a great example of very well thought out guidance, right? Going into earnings. But it's not just guidance. These guys knocked the cover off the ball, Pete. Let's be honest. And in an era of consumer discretionary spending declining here and in Europe, right? I talked about that on Clayman's show on Thursday of last week. Not just the United States, but in Europe as well. Sneakers are one of those things. Unless your kicks are falling apart, you can defer that purchase of the new hot Nikes or the brands that On Holdings sells. They are a Swiss sneaker maker, folks, for those of you that are not familiar with the stock. Nike, of course, doing well, being buoyed up, I think, about 1.5% when I looked before we went live on that news. And listen, it may be a pocket of resilience in declining consumer spending. People got to get their fresh kicks.
I agree with you, but I'll tell you what, I don't agree with the idea that Nike's coming along with them. They are, you're right, but I don't think that makes any sense to me. I think the competition is beating them up. And I think the more I look, when you go to a gym, I challenge you, look around the gym and tell me how many people are wearing Nikes, but how many people are in these clouds and all the rest of it. I mean, it is striking just how much of a dent that they've put into the big guy when it comes to Nike. All right, next up, Alcon. It's a medical instruments. This is a big one, Mark, because this is another one of these companies where are they going to be able to come through? They absolutely have. Their sales were up 5%. They were at $2.4 billion. They have strong free cash flow. Across the board, you look at the surgical side, you look at the vision care, you also take a look at record-breaking contact lens sales. They have absolutely hit it out of the park in every single category. It's why the stock's up 9 or 10% today. It's also why new 52-week highs hitting and bumping up against there today as well. So very interesting to see this one absolutely crushing it. And it's been something that we've been watching all year, whether it's in the pharmaceutical area, the surgical instrument area, wherever. That has become stronger and stronger and stronger. When everybody just points to technology, I'll point over to some of these names that have had extraordinary runs to the upside.
Yeah, and I still like this company, even at this new high. They've got a great razor and razor blade model, right? Contact lenses, man, that is a classic example of that. They're not a one-hit wonder like a lot of the other healthcare stocks that move with this kind of velocity. And look, Pete, I do want to just be clear. I still hate and am super bearish on managed care. We continue to get comments along with guidance, but also from the analysts on the street that follow these things, that those companies have just completely and totally missed the mark as it comes to demand for outpatient voluntary services, which are continuing to wreak havoc on the managed care industry. Watch out for that.
Yep. And lastly, let's just jump to Reddit, because this kind of folds right into where we started at the very top, right? I mean, it's about getting that news out there. It's about the competition of getting as much information as fast as you can possibly get it. Reddit fills into that. And by the way, one of the better and one of the bigger IPOs of the year. This is a very large 10, 11 billion dollar market cap company that came back in when IPOs finally started to return in 2024. Yeah. And Reddit absolutely is crushing it, Mark. I mean, it's incredible what they're able to do. It certainly does help the fact of what started yesterday continues today with GameStop and all the rest of it. And of course, the Roaring Kitty. But the Roaring Kitty is definitely getting a lot of different play for a lot of different reasons. Anybody who saw the movie, by the way, absolutely loved it. I did. I thought it was very entertaining, not because I was in there for about a quarter of a second, but it was really an entertaining movie. And it really did do a great documentary of exactly how this roaring character works. And I'll tell you what, the kitty is definitely flashing today.
Yeah, the kitty's purring, and that's the last of our cat jokes, folks. I'm a dog person. I hate cats, but the memes are endless. Listen, this company is not just a communication game changer. It's not just a social media medium that allows people like Roaring Kitty to have that kind of a platform to move stocks, make news, and report news, as it's become another outlet, just like X has. But Pete, you're not going to be surprised to hear me use the D word to describe the other business that this company's in, and that is data. Producer Jared, we might need to have Data Man. That might be the next little figure that we have on the screen. The amount of data it's sentiment data, by the way. Sentiment data is so flippin' important to traders and investors and people in so many different industries. And what's being said on Reddit is an absolute treasure trove of that data. And that's the primary way they're making money. And you know I love data companies. So I'm still bullish Reddit, even at these levels. Stock up 7% as I look at the quote just a moment ago.
Yeah, and I like that company. I think they've done an absolutely magnificent job, and it's impressive how they've done. Took a long time to bring them actually to the public, but it's great that they finally have. Now they got to do one thing, though, Mark. They got to start showing us that they know how to make money, because that's what it all comes down to when we're all said and done. And they haven't done that yet, but they're getting closer all the time. All right, we're going to jump to some sports. I know you love this segment, so we're going to start off with Jared Goff. Now, Jared Goff, first pick in the entire draft, Cal Berkeley kid. He's a Golden Bear, 2018. By 2021, he's gone. It was actually 2016. 2021, though, 5 years later, they send him off to Detroit. Now, this is a guy in 18, went to the Super Bowl. And actually, he played pretty well in that Super Bowl. He threw really well. They didn't score very many points, but he moved him up and down the field. They lost to the Patriots. A lot of people could say they lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowls over all these years. As a Detroit Lion, though, Mark, 67% completion, not so bad. 78 touchdowns, not bad at all. 27 interceptions, pretty damn good. And lost in the NFC Championship game to the San Francisco 49ers. He had 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. So the kid has actually shown that he can bounce back. He's in Detroit. People there are falling in love with him all the time. I was just with some people from Detroit the other day, and they were talking about him, and I'm like, hey, look, he seems like he's pretty good. They're like, he's better than pretty good. And by the way, they finally decided, you know what? We're going to extend you. $212 million. They gave him a guarantee of $170 million. He's now the second highest paid guy in the NFL. $53 million a year. The only person who has more than him is Joe Burrow. He's got $55 million a year. So Jared Goff has absolutely reached the next level. Can the Detroit Lions get there, Mark? Are they going to get past your Giants?
Hard to say, and I don't bet against the Giants, but yeah, this guy, what a story, right? I mean, in his first season for the Lions was less than spectacular. He struggled through his entire first season. But listen, obviously it's panned out. As you say, he's come back. Highest paid, second highest in the NFL, highest paid athlete in the history of the great Motor City of Detroit. Going to be fun to watch this guy when the season starts this year.
I agree with you. I think it's fun. By the way, the NFC North, I think when you look across it, you go, wow, this is kind of fun. You got Caleb Williams over here. You got Love over there. You got J.J. McCarthy. You got Jared Goff, who's now the senior guy when you look around. Wow, he's an old man compared to the rest of these guys. All right, Clemson football, Dabo Swinney. I love this guy because he doesn't go with everybody else, and he's got principles. And one of his principles is, hey, look, everybody else can jump into the portal. You can do whatever you want. You can turn this into free agency for college athletes. I'm not going to play there. My guys who want to jump in there and leave, go ahead and leave. But I'm not going to go in there and just start bringing guys in. I want to get a guy in high school. I want to bring him here. I want to develop him, and I want to turn him into a player. So, Mark, I'll just read this off to you, and you tell me if this guy's got a pretty decent track record so far. 2016 and 18, he won the national title. In 2019, he was 14-1. Then he went 10-2. Then he went 10-3. Then he went 11-3. And now he went last year 9-4. And a lot of people are like, well, why isn't this guy in the portal? And I'm thinking, you know what? He's got his principles. He doesn't want these little crybabies to just leave because they aren't getting enough time on the field or whatever their excuse might be for leaving. But he goes and he wants to develop the players. Is he making a mistake is my question to you as the CEO of our company. Is he making a mistake? This guy's paid a lot of money, but he's kind of drifting down a little bit off of that top. Is that a problem? Is that something you'd be worried about? Would you say, hey, look, you got to go in the portal? Or what would you do if he was your employee?
Yeah, listen, principles are great, but they don't always win football games. And the past 3 seasons, we're definitely starting to see some slippage there. And a lot of sports writers are suggesting that this may be part of the problem. So to answer your question, yeah, man, you use every tool at your disposal when you have to win games or post profits or whatever. It's being the CEO, very similar position. So I would say, listen, dude, you're principled guy. That's great. We respect it. You made your point. Get with the program and get in the portal. That would be my advice, Pete.
I hear you, and I slightly disagree, but I hear you, and I think you're probably on the right side. I just love the fact that the guy's got the principles that he's got. Now, whether or not that ends up being, let's give him a little bit of time. The portal's only been around about 2 or 3 years or whatever. We'll see how this whole thing plays out. But I'm going to be speaking to that team, and I'm going to be speaking the week that they play the Stanford Cardinal, and it should be kind of interesting. I want to see if you've never been to a game in Death Valley, let me tell you, that is a great venue, and it's killer. It's fun. And Clemson coming down, man, it's touching the rock and the whole thing. It's unbelievable. It is an experience.
If you get a chance to talk to Dabo, you can let him know that I said get in the portal, man.
I'm sure there's a lot of them behind you on that same board. I know you want to plug a little something. What do you got?
I got to listen, a little shameless promotion and publicity. 1, never a bad thing. 2, something that folks that watch me know I am not shy about. But listen, we now have a date, an official launch date. Emails are locked and loaded to our current subscribers. The Rebel Setup, Pete, our daily show, pre-market, 8 to 9, most important hour of my day as a trader and that of most of the other smart money in our great Rebel Nation. That show is going to be hosted by our friend Steve Kalasian, who comes from that smart money hedge fund world. And to really get you excited, folks, I know producer Jared's got our teaser teed up. We'll run it into the close. Check in again tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern time. Pete and I will be back on the Rebel's Edge because Jon will continue to be herding donkeys on the Emerald Isle. Jared, over to you.